Hi, come on in.
And join in. It's the Very Merry Life. Hi, I'm Mary Hendricks, and you might know me as that relatable AF Mama over on Instagram who hopefully feels like an old friend at this point. And if not, it won't be long till it feels that way as we get raw, unfiltered, and very unapologetic in all things motherhood, marriage, sex, and more. From moments worth savoring to moments worth surviving, get ready to leave feeling seen and supported. You have a friend here now, so hey, take a seat. What's going on? All right. Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of The Very Merry Life. Today, I'm very excited. I have Myla from Joyful Parents on to join me. I'm going to give her a second to introduce herself, but I'm very excited about this because I'm glad it happened the way it did. Recently, she shared a story of people giving submissions into what podcast you would like to see her on, and someone had submitted this one, and I love that. Thank you to whoever did that, because I'm always looking for amazing guests and accounts to bring on and connect you guys with, and Myla is definitely one of those. So, hi, Myla.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on.
Always. So I'm going to give you a second to introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so I am Myla Leinweber, an odd last name, but there it is.
I like it.
It's my married name. I went from Myla Marks, Myla Leinweber.
I like it.
And I am a parent educator and a parent coach, and I am a mom of 2 young kids. And I'm a former kindergarten teacher. So a little bit of my story is I taught kindergarten before I had my own kids. Definitely just assumed I was going back. I live in Canada where we get 12 to 18 months maternity leave. I'm so sorry, but we do.
Lucky.
And it was, my first daughter was premature. And when it was time to go back, I was not ready.
Yeah.
And had the ability to take a little bit more time because she just seems so little still because she was premature. And I found a parent coaching master's program. I was like, oh, I'll do this while I'm on mat leave because I'm that kind of person. Mm-hmm. And discovered that I really loved working with parents. Thought it would just help me as a teacher, but ended up just kind of being really, really wonderful to connect with parents. And I saw a lot of culture of complaining in parenting. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, is there another way to approach this? Like, I get the venting, don't get me wrong. I think that there's a both and, but when we enjoy parenting, we like parenting more and our kids get a different version of us. So that is the joyful parents part, really focusing on how do we enjoy parenting more so that our children are delighted in as
Well, and I love that because I am that type of person. Like I love good venting. Like I am not someone that shies away from the nitty gritty of parenthood. Like there's hard aspects to it. You and I both know that there's hard aspects of it. I do think that there's room to honor that and be able to get those out, but also it can't be overwhelming where you're just sitting in it. But at the same time, same token, you can't be toxic and positive at the same time either, because then that does no one any good. But I always feel like the moments where you can own up to the really tough parts is what makes it, if you own up to it, then you can really enjoy it. And that's kind of what I have come to learn is like, you really don't have to, the less you fight it, the more you kind of can embrace it a little bit more and rock the mess and rock the chaos and really just savor it.
Yeah. It's not, joyful parents isn't perfect parents. That's, I want to be really clear. That's not the goal. It's and I'm really big into like individual parents and individual families and individual kids. So individually, what does joy mean in that family? I just don't want it to be forgotten about. And that's what I think can happen sometimes in the culture of like, this is the worst. This is so hard. I feel so exhausted. It's the both. Yeah. I also felt really exhausted. I also felt like it was hard. And where are those moments of joy and delight and those sorts of things? So that's a part of my focus for sure. And just kind of helping parents find that without being Pollyannish. If people follow me, on Instagram, they'll be like, oh yeah, no, she's not Pollyannish. She's not like, it's all cheery here, but just always.
Yeah. It's living with more intent. Like I looked at your account and I've been following it and I was like, I like this a lot because it's parenting with intent. Like, I think that's the biggest thing and definitely the quote, comparison is the thief of joy. I think that's where a lot of parents get caught up, because we for so long have blanketed children. We think of children as being that they should do one thing. They should act one way. We should do this in one manner. And we forget that, as you said, it's individual. Like, this is how things have to be, and it doesn't have to look similar. And I love that approach, because I think that's really the helpful part, is kind of like settling into realizing, like, hey, this is my world. This is my circus, my monkeys. Let's do it.
Totally. And I always try to not be part of the problem, but there's so much parenting information out there, right? Like, we're just inundated with parenting information. And the key to me is, I always say when I share, like, I do questions and offerings on my account where you ask parenting questions, it's an offering. Yeah. It is not an answer, because no one knows your family, your situation, what you got going on in the background except for you. Yeah. So the idea is like, there's so many great accounts out there. It's not what I'm saying, but we take it and we go, yeah, okay, a little bit of that, a little bit. Oh yeah, I've got that kind of kid. I'll try that. Oh gosh, that didn't work at all. Never mind. Leave that one behind. Yeah. And gathering up and creating our own individual toolboxes that match us and our kids. Yeah. Like, what does my child individually need?
Yeah, I love that. And right before we got started, Myla and I were talking. I had said that I had a guest on last night. We were talking about spicy children. And I love that you have a little highlight on your page about handling spicy children, because the guest that I had on, she says that her 5-year-old son, I think she said, he is spicy. And I have 3 kids. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and then a 1-year-old. And my middle, holy heck. Right? I mean, all my kids are spicy in different ways, but he is just 3. It's hard. It's hard right now, because he is so different, and we're trying to figure out his response, like what he will respond to and what will actually work with him. And it's different than, like, my daughter, my oldest, my 5-year-old, she's very imaginative. Like, she likes doing things. And for her, like, when she gets into situations that don't make me, quote unquote, happy, chances are it's not anything that she's doing to just stick it to me. It's just because her head's in the clouds. So for example, like, if I find a mess, it's because she wants to create a potion, like, and she's pretending she's a witch, like, type of thing, where she's just like a little kid in her la la land. But my son, he is a hothead. He likes to throw things. He likes to hit. He's just got very short little temper. And I'm like, what do I do with you?
Totally.
Walk away so I can regulate myself right now before this does not turn out pretty.
Well, someone just asked me on my account, they're like, what did you find the hardest thing about parenting? And it was exactly that I have 2 children who have such opposite temperaments. Yeah. That was the hardest thing. So switching my mindset, like, if I had only had my second is spicy, my first is very easygoing. And if I had only had my first daughter, I would not be sitting here able to help parents, because I'd be like, you guys, you just like tell them to stop and they stop. I don't really get what the problem is. Yeah. Because that's just her temperament. Yeah. It's just her temperament. It's how she was made. And like, of course she has big feelings sometimes. And it's funny, she's very head in the clouds kind of kid too. But then with my youngest, it's like, oh, validating your feelings just makes you scream. It looks like I poured gasoline on you and you are a fire when I validate your feelings. Yeah. When I tell you something, when I try like telling you something to do directly, you throw something at me or scream no. Yeah.
Your child sounds just like my child. So yes.
Yeah. A lot of people, if people are listening, are kind of like, what does she mean spicy? I actually, it's a reframe from the temperament perspective, which is this idea that kids are built up of all these different traits, adults too. And we can sort of generalize kids into easygoing, or at the other extreme is difficult, which for obvious reasons, I don't love that term. So spicy represents sort of this temperament. You're not imagining it. They are different. Yeah. They showed up in this world differently. Yeah. And I have a highlight, like you were saying, in my on my Instagram page, where I'm like, traits of my spicy child. And yours might not tick every box, but it's like to give you that idea. And it's so helpful to have that word and to have that framework because they do need something different for a good fit.
Yeah.
And that's the goal, is a good fit between what the parent is offering and what the child is needing.
Yeah.
And when we have that good
and
fit,
that's like a huge, and that's a huge portion for me. It's just like figuring that out. Like you said, it's like switching my brain back and forth, but also like the hard part that I'm finding is because I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and my 1-year-old, I mean, she's still a baby, but for the most part, her temperament is very similar to my 5-year-old. Like as babies, they've both been very similar in ease and whatever. My spicy child, Spencer, he just, like you said, he entered this world. It's been his temperament since he was like 2 months old. Like he just has always been this way. He was the type where he was always fussy. Even like if you ask my parents, we always describe him that he was the kid that we needed him to get to the next milestone because he was so frustrated that he was like when he was sitting up, he needed to crawl. When he was crawling, he needed to walk. Like we were just like, okay, we need to get him to the next stage because he is just so cranky. I feel like his brain has always been like a little 2 steps ahead while his body's behind. But because of that, I also struggle with time. Like I know a lot of what the response is for him, but sometimes I don't have the time to do it. Like for him, I think, I need a quick fix sometimes. And when I do that with him, it's like a pushback. And I know that a lot of times he needs like one-on-one. I need to like get down. I need to like actually sit with him and calm him down and like hug him and things like that. But that's hard when you got 2 other kids that are running around. And I'm like, I don't have the time to figure out this right now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's the both end of it, right? Like it is hard. Yeah. Sort of like, can I share an offering for you?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you do know, but I get it because I'm a parent of young kids. So I totally get the words coming out of my mouth, and I never say anything flippantly like, oh, just get calm before you calm your child, or, just take care of yourself. Cause I also get it. And I use like sort of a signature strategy when I'm sharing information with parents. It's the before, during, and after. And when we focus, especially for our spicy kids, the majority of our energy in the before and in the after, it pays dividends. Yeah. So the 5 minutes that it takes for me to go, I hear my daughter escalating in her room. I can't get these pants on. Frustration is such a marker of a child with a spicy temperament. Yep. Low tolerance for frustration. I have a choice, right? I can call back. Nope, get your pants on. We got 10 minutes. You got to go, right? But just like you, I literally, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire, like just watching her body engulfed in flames. If instead I hear that moment, sometimes we don't. Another marker of kids who are spicy, 0 to 100. You're like, where was the cue? They're already up. But if we can find it, then I go and I say to her, hey, do you want to pretend you're my life-size doll? And I'm going to put these pants on my doll. Okay, just lie totally flat.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling the pants on, and I'm actually probably doing some deep pressure, which is regulating. I'm probably actually doing some joint compressions, which is regulating. I'm looking her in the eye. I'm laughing with her. I'm saying to her, I love my doll so much. And now that energy, I mean, it probably took me 60 seconds. If we're honest, it took 60 seconds. I now get to get my child out the door on time versus picking her up, kicking and screaming, strapping her into the car while she's, swinging at me. I've been there too. I've done that too.
Yeah.
But that energy that we can put, if we can remember, that's the practice. It's like, oh, right, I could put some energy in early.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to get into this power struggle in 10 minutes. Okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's so true. I actually just had the other day, there's another mom I follow on here, and she put up a reel, and she was frustrated. She's overseas traveling with her 3 young kids. And she had said, she was like, you know what, I am trying so hard to be a gentle parent. And she says, but I want to be a 90s parent right now. And whatever that means, like where she's like, I just want to go off the handle. And she said, I think I'm stinking at gentle parenting. I'm hiding out in a bathroom right now. And she was recording this as she's hiding out. And I was like, I was like, I think you're gentle parenting right now, whatever that means. I said, because you just removed yourself from the situation to then get back and handle it. And that is like the hardest part of it. And I brought it up on my stories and I asked people about like what you think gentle parenting is, because it's just, it sounds exactly what you just said. And so many people have different ideas of it. And it's literally that of like, we recognize what's happening and we have to like take ownership of the emotions and be able to like just calm ourselves first and then get into it. And it doesn't always work. It's like it sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but it's the trying portion and just, you know, different methods. But I definitely agree on that. Cause when I can actually tell myself like, hey, let's calm him down, then it's going to go much smoother. And when it doesn't, when I don't, then God help us, everyone.
Well, yeah, you're making an investment, right? And I get how hard it is, because I also have been like trying to get myself ready, and I'm like, just put on your pants, just help me out and put on your pants. Maybe that's 90s parenting. But when I take that moment to play a game, I call gamifying it, or do a little thing, then it is smoother. And also sometimes I just say, okay, I hear you're frustrated and I'll be there when I can. And sometimes there's a meltdown and I deal with that. This isn't about like, oh, we always avoid those extreme feelings or we always avoid that moment. Yeah. We just are investing our precious, precious parenting energy because it's limited at the right moments. And if we invest it early, it pays off a little bit more.
Well, that's what I hope, because I think it's a personality trait. It's going to stick with them. But like you said, like my son has zero tolerance for any sort of frustration. Like he will throw whatever he can't, like if it's a second that he can't handle something, throws it right across the room, screams his head off. Like he can't take that at all. And my brother was actually like that. So I have a feeling it's probably going to be something that's just a personality trait. And it's just one of those things where you just have to figure out how to teach him to cope with it. I kind of just look at him and be like, he's going to obviously get frustrated throughout the rest of his life. I need to figure out how to teach him how to best like calm down. It's hard. I tried Daniel Tiger is like our Daniel Tiger from the show. I know, he's great. He has a song that my daughter likes to sing to him because, my daughter is like La La Land, and she'll sing a little song like, when you feel so mad and you want to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4. And she'll do that to him. And my son will just go like, rah, and like just freak out because he wants nothing to do with her. I'm like, we're going to have to work on what's going to break through that little exterior of yours, buddy.
We'll be back after a quick break. Eye-Opening Moments podcast are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcast.
Well, totally. So spicy kids in particular, lots of kids for sure, but spicy kids in particular are literally in a state of dysregulation. This means I just like to think about it like brain offline, not my child almost, just like still my child and still going to love and care for them, but not the same person who they're going to be when this is through, like when we're through the wave of the meltdown. Mm-hmm. And a lot of kids, my own daughter, we live really close to a ski hill, and part of what I identify as spicy kids is they often have really strong sensory preferences. Mm-hmm. So we just see like a little bit of extra sensitivity sometimes to temperature or being itchy or like a clothing thing or a particular cup, those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And so she was just done. We decided to divide and conquer. My husband took my eldest. They still wanted to ski. I'm driving her home and it's just a 10 out of 10, fully losing it. And I'm like, I'm this parent educator. I know all the things to say to her. And I was like, oh, honey, you're not alone. I know this feels so big, because it also creates a lack of safety. So knowing that they're not alone can be helpful. Yeah. This is the good fit piece. This doesn't mean throw that tool out. But she says to me, Mom, just stop talking. You're making it so much worse. She was like maybe 3 and a bit. And I was like, oh, I am. 100% I am. And I can see that. And of course I kept talking. I was like, oh, thank you for letting me know what you mean, because I'm a talker. But it was such an important moment for me, because when we're thinking about, okay, I'm on Instagram and I'm watching these strategies, I'm going to do the strategy and those sorts of things. I don't care if, anyone said that do this strategy, it's going to work. If it doesn't work for your kid, it's okay to be like, I'm going to keep looking for something else. And when a spicy child is in a meltdown, I mean, I really challenge the audience to just not talk. Just don't say anything.
Well, that's actually what I've taught my husband to do, because my husband, it's hard when those moments happen. You're very reactive. Like you realize, and I learned this with my firstborn, that because she was that way when they're in a tantrum and you try to react and it's just fire and ice. Like you need to just let it go and fizzle out. And that's why I told my husband, because it's hard not to react when they are just so losing their crap. And I just told him, I said, don't look at them, don't acknowledge them, don't touch anything. Let him go do his thing. He will calm down. Right now, we just are kind of letting him know that we're here. And we'll go and approach him afterwards. But right now, where he's the same way. If I bring it up, he freaks out. So I just kind of let him fizzle out. But
and we can still be co-regulators. So we hear that a lot on Instagram and stuff too. Like lend your child your calm, co-regulate your child, and those sorts of things. So a lot of parents are like, "What's that mean? What's that look like?" Because it's confusing, because it can be a lot of things. And what something that's really interesting, actually, I learned this from my friend, Larissa, who's an OT. She's on Instagram at Study Parents. And we did a workshop together on meltdowns, actually, and how to parent through them. Yep. And one thing she brought to that workshop was how regulation is bidirectional, which means it makes so much sense that your husband's nervous system is amped up or triggered by your child's dysregulation. Mm-hmm. Because just like we want to lend them our calm, they lend us their dysregulation. Does that make sense? Like it's this bidirectional thing. Yeah. And so when we say, oh, just be calm and then lend them your calm, it's such a big ask. It's such a big ask if you don't have a big toolkit for how to do that or what that looks like. But definitely saying less as just like a goal in parenting, I think can be really, really helpful often for kids.
Yeah. No, it is. It definitely is. That's actually one of I recently talked about that, because it's our toolkit for ourselves. It's why like the whole gentle parenting thing is like us. It's us taking a look at ourselves and trying to work on us and our emotions and everything. Mm-hmm. But I recently brought that up. I was like, that is so heavy on a parent. Like sometimes you don't realize how exhausting it is to be the energy keeper of your household, because it's such a huge task on moms. It's just like you realize like, because I'm sure you have those days where you wake up and sometimes you're just in a funk, and then all of a sudden you start to see that everyone else is in a funk, and you realize that like, oh, I just rubbed off on everyone, didn't I? And it's totally
especially spicy kids. They pick up on parental mood, and you can see it reflected in their behavior very, very quickly. My approach to parenting is, so I actually don't say, oh, I'm gentle or conscious or respectful or positive, or I don't know, there's other ones, peaceful, because a lot of them, I feel like do have some sort of like criteria. And I'm like, I don't care. It's just, what does the parent need? What does the child need? What does the relationship need? Let's do that.
Love it.
So the parent might need reflection and emotional regulation skills. So then great, let's do that. They might need therapy and to look back on their triggers from their own childhood. Let's do that. They might need support for their nervous system and being overstimulated. And that's why minimalism is such a big movement, right? Because a lot of parents are overstimulated. So then let's do that. But it doesn't mean that it's all going to be the right fit for every parent. And then same so with the kids. What's that good fit? What does the child need? Individually, what does that child need? And then we bring that together in the relationship. And the amazing thing is that, and maybe you experience this with your son, is like, we enjoy parenting more when we feel like we're doing it well. And when we have a child who has a spicy temperament, it's very easy to feel like, am I doing this right? Am I good enough at this? Am I helping this person? Am I doing all these, damaging them for life. Like it's really easy to go to those places. And that's why when we take care of ourselves first as a parent, then we're able to provide a good fit for our child. We actually start enjoying parenting more when we go, oh, not talking during my child's meltdown it helped.
Yeah.
I feel confident even though I just experienced a meltdown.
Yeah.
And now I'm enjoying parenting more.
Yeah. I love that. That's because it's true. I've had plenty of moments like that where I said to Kev, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just hope he doesn't grow up and like, I don't even know, go off the rails, because it's scary. Like sometimes when it's such a change of temperament sometimes when you are, like you said, like you have a first that is not that way. And when you see someone else, you're like, another kid, you're like, oh God. And then every thought goes through your head and you're like, oh, what's he going to grow up to be like, oh my God, are we going to face issues? Oh my God, is he going to wind up in jail? Like all of these things we're like, oh God, what are we facing right now? But that is
totally joke. It's a joke, but that people with kids with spicy kids have all done the 1 a.m. like early signs of sociopathic behavior on Google, because it's like, when your child punches you in the face and then deadpans you, or like looks at you across the room and is like, I will never love you again, or I hope you go in the garbage can, or whatever. You're like, my goodness.
Literally. I don't know. I literally said to my husband the other day, I was like, I am afraid that he's going to grow up to be a sociopath. I forget what he did, but I know my son did something. I looked at him and I was like, oh my God, I forget what he did. But yesterday he did something and he was so nasty. And we're in the kitchen and my 5-year-old looked at us and she was like, I don't know, Spencer, you need to go back to the dark woods that you came from. I have never said this. She said it. And my husband and I looked at each other. We're like, yeah, you kind of do. Like, what dark woods did you roll out of, child? Like, what the heck is going on with you? Like, it's at this point, we kind of laugh because we're like, oh my God, like what happened? Because he's a product of us. But we definitely are.
Temperament is confusing because especially I was a bit spicy and am definitely spicy still. And so I recognize it in her and I'm like, oh, I have deep empathy for what that feels like.
Yeah.
Like a little bit misunderstood. You're acting like this is no big deal, but it feels like really big to me and you're minimizing it, those kinds of pieces. But I like to talk. She's likes less talking. So I really like to talk. So we have a difference there. But no, definitely it can feel that it makes sense that parents feel fear, and fear does block joy, so that's why when we can kind of normalize it and put some tools in the toolbox. And I'm actually working on a course right now on temperament so that parents can go like, well, what is a good fit when my child has this particular temperament? Because also there's things that come up with kids who have easygoing temperaments. That's where we can get the people pleasing kind of behavior and stuff. And so what we ask for, here's the story. My daughter says to her sister in the back of the car, I'm always thinking about what other people need. And I probably should think about myself a little bit more too in there. But you're only thinking about what you need and you're never thinking about other people. Like, and she wasn't being mean. She was just like stating the facts, which are so factually true. Yeah. And so for me to say, to my eldest daughter, like, I really can't have you doing that behavior. I need you to really be thinking about everyone else. She would like drop into people pleasing mode right away. Yeah. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm the worst, right? Not effective. But for my spicy child, we're constantly working on perspective switching and empathy skills to ensure that she foundationally has those, as it's not her instinct to look outside. Her instinct is like, oh, what do I need? Because her need is so big. Her need boxes, which is another thing I talk about, so big.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's huge. I think I think this is going to be like just a great for everyone listening. Cause I especially because I have a lot of first time parents that are getting into having another baby. And I think that's the thing that's like been a little bit more reassuring to me is, I have first time parents who have a spicy first child and they get, they see people. And like I said, they compare and, they compare to friends who don't have a spicy child and things like that, where they're all of a sudden thinking everything that they're doing is wrong. And I kind of am a little bit more easygoing with it because there's so many difference of personalities and I've raised my children quote unquote the same. Like all of my kids have been raised the same. They are both the product of my husband and I. They were born and it was easy going. I've had the same like attitude for everything. It's just who they are. And I think it's like reassuring on that end as a parent when you have 3 now who you can tell are their own separate human beings. It's just a nice reassuring fact. But for, first time parents who aren't familiar,
yes. And then we get told this story too, like, well, you could make your kid like this, right? Like I'm a little bit hard on the sleep industry because the statistically sleep training actually just doesn't work for a percentage of kids. And my guess is it's probably our spicy ones,
Yeah.
And so it really is about, like this relief that we can provide for parents and saying like, there's not something wrong with you. There's not something wrong with your child. There's not something even wrong with what you're doing. It's like, we can't, this is who they are. And so once we kind of go, oh, this is who they are. And part of that process can be grieving that you don't have like your best friend's baby who sleeps 12 hours a night.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead and grieve that. That makes sense. That is devastating. I'm devastated for you.
Yeah. Well,
right.
And I, being on where I'm at in Instagram, I get a lot of questions from parents. Like I have pretty easy sleepers. My second was a little bit more finicky with nap time, but he over time has become a pretty easy sleeper that I can say for being a spicy child, he doesn't give me a hassle on that. But, I have people comment, I'm like, I don't know. I don't have answers. And I don't like to give out answers being like, this is what my kids do. Cause I'm like, I don't know. I know, like, I have adults. Like my husband can fall asleep at the drop of, he can go like this and fall asleep. Me, I sit up forever. And I'm like, I'm an adult and my sleep habits still stink. So it's like, you look at stuff like that where, again, we forget that they are their own person. They're their own people. Like we didn't birth clones of ourselves. We didn't, birth these robots that are pre-programmed to do something. We just birthed someone that is going to figure it out. And we are trying to figure them out. Like we're trying to get to know them. Like that's the biggest thing is continuously getting to know them and who they're growing up to be.
Can create the conditions. Like that's what I like about the sleep industry. It's like, have we created the conditions for a great sleep? Temperature would make a difference probably. How light the room is. Yeah, that makes a difference. If the child's been regulated before bed, that makes a difference. But when we release this idea, especially firstborn, secondborn for me, oh, my second, she'll eventually do like her sister did at age 5.
Yeah.
No, I can release that idea.
Yeah.
No, she might not. She might actually have a totally different trajectory and path. And my guess is it'll probably be that way.
Yeah. Right.
And also even as parents, we go, oh, me and my sibling, or when I was a kid, that's when I liked this, or, we do these things, but really, really meeting that individual child and being like, okay, who are you? What do you need? How do I help specifically you with your specific temperament and traits to create a good fit for you?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's where like our generational shift is going. And I like that. It's the individuality, cannot talk, but also it's like the respect of that portion, because I think that's the biggest portion too with, the joy-filled parenting and stuff like that is the past generation. It's like kids are, what's that saying? They're meant to be seen, not heard. Yeah. Type of mentality. And it's true. It really is true. Like from the older generations, I think that's why when they hear stuff like this, they're kind of like, what? Like, no, well, just tell them to go to bed and you call it a day and you tell them not to knock it off, and they don't really understand it. And it's hard because for me, I always think of it like I want to treat my children the same way I'm going to treat my husband. If I'm going to lose my cool on my kids or if I were to lose my cool on my kids or just go to my husband and be like, you fall asleep like right now, like, and you stop and do it, all that stuff, I would feel terrible. I would apologize to my husband. I would apologize to anyone I would treat like that. And yet for kids, we deem them unimportant enough to be receiving of that respect to, figure them out and help them figure out, themselves.
Totally. We're pretty hard on kids. You think about it, in the way that, we would talk to them versus we would talk to someone in a grocery store lineup or our partners or our friends and stuff. We talk to our kids in a pretty harsh way a lot of the time. And we have to be gentle with ourselves. We're undoing a lot of, we all grew up in being treated a certain way. So to parent differently requires some effort.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the effort is going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
But it does require effort. So let's not pretend that this is the easiest way to parent, but it is, I think, the most joyful way, right? We get so much joy when oh my goodness, it's like my 7-year-old, I can't believe the things that come out of her mouth, but she's 7.5. And so she's kind of like aging out of my area of expertise. I work with parents of kids who are 0 or more like 1 to 7 years old. But she said to me, I was letting her have a vent session about her sister, which is a tip and tool that I recommend for every parent to do. Her sister was not around, so she couldn't, she's not hearing this, but she needed an opportunity to be like, it's hard to be a big sister, and it's hard to be a big sister to a spicy kid too.
Yeah.
And so she started venting about, sometimes she doesn't even listen to my question. She just says no right away. No, you can't have that Lego. And she says everything is hers, and that's so hard. And then I'm like, just, listening to her. She paused and she goes, I also know I can't change her, and that I'm 2 years older and I can regulate my emotions so much better than her. So thanks for letting me talk about it, Mom.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Like, yes, this works. It works. It works. It might not be so clear, but we see these glimpses, we see these glimmers. And then as they approach, so we expect self-regulation between 7 to 9 years old. Guess who the 9-year-olds are? It's our spicy kids. Yeah. And that's when they have more mastery over regulating those big feelings and stuff. But the groundwork that we've laid when the development catches up is like kaboom, Yeah. And now they're in the world. I mean, I swear my 7-year-old is more emotionally intelligent than so many adults I have come into contact with.
I'm sure. Well, that's the thing. That's what we're all saying. It's like, I always say that. I'm like, we're teaching kids we expect kids to be emotionally mature when we ourselves as adults typically are not. Like, it's just one of those things that we are trying to figure out. Like, I know for myself, I try to figure that out, and I try to figure out my reactions. And, I think a big generational change too is just the apologizing portion of it, of like figuring it out and being like, hey, like, I'm so sorry that I did, I yelled, or I'm so sorry that I threw it, that you guys didn't get your shoes on at the right time to get off the door. But, I think just that ownership of that and trying daily, like I always say that, like, it's just the continuous trying and waking up and doing it. And it's the little things. And I'm sure you can vouch for it. It's not something that you're going to see overnight change with this stuff. I think it's just planting the seed little by little by little,
100%,
and eventually
100%.
It's gonna boom. So
yeah, I have a couple of reels on my feed. One is my now 7-year-old reading a book as a 1-year-old, and so she's like blah blah blah, and turning the pages. And then the next scene is she wrote a novel for her friend for Christmas, wrote it, and she's reading it. I didn't expect her to learn to read when she was 6 years old and start at that point. Here's a book. We're going to learn to read. I've read to her whole life. Yeah. I've offered her opportunities for language. We've talked about words. She's listened to audiobooks. So it makes sense that there was this moment where she could read. And then it became the moment where she could write. And so it is, I think, but we live in the generation of quick fixes and give it to me quick, and make your reel less than 7 seconds or you'll lose their attention. So it's counterintuitive, I think, also to our culture. And so let's call out and acknowledge that makes it hard, but we're planting the seeds, we're doing this work. And when you meet a child's need behind their behavior, when the need is met, if the need is, I need to feel loved and safe and secure, and you meet that need, we do see a decrease in the behavior. Yeah. So it's just, it happens, but we're not doing it in order to see the decrease in behavior. We're doing it so that we teach the child, this is how you get your needs met. This is how you identify, I have a need right now. This is some of the ways you can get your needs met. You can turn to me for help right now. And as you age, you'll be able to do this independently. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many people think about what things we would unravel that wouldn't have taken us 20 years if we had been given some of these skills as kids.
Yeah. No, seriously. Yes.
It's a lot.
Yes.
You're like, whoa.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. That's, I want to just, at the end of the day, I want to enjoy my kids. And I am thankful. 1 to 2 rocked my world. When I had my son, it rocked my world because, like I said, he is just a different baby. It was a very hard transition. And honestly, it took a while to connect with him even, because I think it was just, it rocked. It really rocked me, where I was like, I don't know who you are. Like, I think I kind of expected him to come out and be very similar to my first. And when he wasn't, I was like, oh my God, like, who are you? It's taken me time. But it rocked my world, but I'm so thankful that he is the way he is. And I'm so thankful that he came when he did, because it's the reason why I got to 3 kids. Cause he taught me, he's teaching me so much. Like, he is that one kid. And, funny enough, I talked to a therapist once about it, and she was like, usually there's one kid that mimics something in you that is going to be your trigger kid. And she said, it's going to be that kid that's going to teach you the most. And that's mine. He's mine. He's the one that pushes the buttons. But I don't think I would have been able to roll with the punches as easily had it not been for my spicy little child.
Totally. Well, you think about like what spicy is. Like, I don't know about you, but I love spicy food. It's exciting and flavorful, and it's spicy music and stuff. It makes you want to dance. Like, spicy is not there's no negative connotations. My daughter often says, "Mama, what's spicy mean?" And we talk about it, because I'm like, it means like, how when you hug me with your whole body. That's what spicy means. Like, it also comes with this passion. So it's funny. My easygoing daughter, she has kind of a flat affect. Like, she's kind of like, hey guys, what's up? And my spicy daughter is like, la, here I am. And she's going to have a different path for sure. But she's getting a lot of the tools, luckily, that she's going to be okay. Just like everyone listening, your spicy kid's going to be okay too. And Mary, your spicy kid's going to be okay too.
Yeah. Oh, they totally will be. It's actually kind of fun. Like, when you realize it, and that's why I love that term spicy kid. Cause like you said, we get stuck in this idea of like an easy child or a difficult child or bad child. Like, you think of that they're just being bad, and it's not the case. And I think it just relieves so much pressure, and it almost makes you appreciate it more. Like, when you're like, oh, okay, like, you are spicy. Like you said, spicy is a good thing. It's a zing. You got to zing to life. They're going to feel big. They're going to love big. They're going to react big. And it's just us crafting to make sure that those reactions are hopefully positive ones in the future. And I think it's actually kind of exciting, and it makes you appreciate it a little bit more. And that's how I am. It's challenging. Don't get me wrong. Cause there are moments where I'm like, but it also, like, when the good moments happen, then you're like, okay, we're heading somewhere. We're heading somewhere in the right direction.
Yeah. And you'll get more and more glimpses of, planted the seed. Oh, I'm seeing a little seedling. Oh, I'm seeing a plant. Oh, I'm seeing a flower, as development also catches up. It doesn't mean we wait for development. I had a dad say that once. He was like, so shouldn't we just like not do any of this stuff and wait till they can handle it? And I'm like, no. Not what I meant. But what we can do is like do all of these things, right? Like, think about the before, think about the after, and think about teaching them how to get their needs met, and teaching them how to regulate their emotions outside of the moment, never inside. And then we start to see, as development catches up, they're able to actually implement and use these types of things. But yeah, definitely spicy kids. My daughter was at like a play date, but I think it was a few hours, and just the other 3 of us were home, and we were all kind of like, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like, nothing exciting. We all like sat around and read our books, and we're like, this isn't as exciting. Like, she brings such delicious joy to our lives. That I definitely wouldn't trade for anything.
No, that's how it is with us. Whenever especially like my daughter, she goes often, like my sister will have her for sleepovers. And when she's gone, I'm like, oh my God, like you have the 3 and it's just chaos. It's chaos with 3 and I love it, but it's chaos. And the moment she's gone, then you're like, oh, I miss it. Like, I don't like it. This is weird. And that's exactly how it is. So yay. Well, this has been such a good conversation. I'm sure everyone listening right now, especially if you have a spicy child, it's all right. It's all right. It's all good. I'm going to have everything linked for you in my show notes. So for everyone listening and wants to, get in on the joyful parenting, course that I know you offer a course with that and stuff like that, then or her Instagram, you can check her out there and everything. But I would highly recommend checking out Myla's page just because it is. I mean, that's what we want. At the end of the day, I know there's that quote, but I really want to, you want to enjoy your kids. And at the end of all this, I want to look back and be like, I really enjoyed this. Like, this was a fun experience. And, obviously there's moments to survive. And I always say that there's moments to survive, but hopefully more of them are worth savoring than they're surviving. And
the both and, right? Like both those moments can exist. And it's just the and also looking for the wins and looking for the joy. I'll share one story that I got a DM from someone after talking about this on my account. And she said, because there's all this like culture of complaining, it's so hard. This is so hard. And it makes sense that this is so hard, which I want to also emphasize. I'm not saying let's erase that, but it's the both and. It's the both and. Anyway, she said she went undiagnosed with postpartum depression for months because she just thought it was normal to really not be okay. Yeah. Because the messaging was such this culture of complaining of like, yeah, this is so hard and it's awful and those kinds of things. And it's just that both and space. It's like, yes, it's hard and there's moments of delight. I think everyone listening will be like, yeah, of course there's moments of delight. So how do we amplify those moments too and they coexist with the hard?
Yeah. Yeah. Because they have to exist together. That's what I always say. I was like, you can't have a good moment without the bad. Like you would never know what a good moment was if you didn't have bad moments. So it's just saving space for both of those. But yeah, we definitely need to make sure the good ones are the ones that we are feeling the most. So yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
Of course.
Another episode down and way more to go. But thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to help support this podcast, I would love for you to subscribe. I'd love for you to share it with others and post about it on your own social media or leave a rating and review. I cannot tell you how helpful and how appreciated those things are for me. Of course, to catch all the latest from me, you can follow me over on Instagram at The Very Merry Life, over on TikTok, The Very Merry Life. And even if you wanted to check out my monthly newsletter, you can do so by subscribing over at theverymerrylife.com. I'll see you next week. Stay tuned for more honest, raw, real chit chat. I have some amazing moms lined up coming on and shit's going to get fun. So buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be good.